what you're seeing here is what's called the cruise stage. This is the 8.5 months it took to get from Earth to Mars. Now the next thing that's going to happen is the entry, descent, and landing. That's what's taking place right here. So it enters the atmosphere, and it takes 7 minutes to get down to the surface. So you can see that they're controlling the spacecraft as it's coming through the atmosphere. They're controlling it like it was an airplane. The parachute opens. Then the heat shield drops away. That allows them to look at the ground with their radar. And then at about 200 miles an hour, the spacecraft drops out of the back shell, turns on its rocket engines, and then heads down towards the surface. This is called the sky crane. This is where the spacecraft is lowered on a tether away from the descent stage. And then when it finally reaches the ground, the tethers in the umbilical. The umbilical is a communications line between the descent stage and the vehicle. Those lines are cut and the descent stage goes flying off to another part of Mars and crash lands. So this is where we are right now. So this is when the science operations start. We've successfully landed on Mars. Now we're going to start the scientific operations to try to find out if Mars was ever a habitable planet. Habitable meaning, could it have supported microbial life?
Environment, which is very important for understanding habitability. What you can see here now is that we're about to land very close to the center of the landing ellipse, and we have a couple of different routes that we can take. The scientists on the team prefer the one on the right, and so what we would do is drive along it. And now you can see at the base of this mountain where these lower layers are. And the layers are important because they allow us to sort of read a geological book. You start at the bottom of the mountain, and those are the oldest layers, and then the layers that occur up near the top, those are the youngest parts, the youngest chapters in the book. We will drive along up to this outcrop that we call the fence, and when we get there...
The target. That's what they were aiming for. Now, about 5 weeks ago, they made that circle even smaller. So a target that was hard to hit to begin with, it was made even harder by making that circle smaller. Now, an ellipse is a flattened out circle. So the long axis here is about 12 miles long, and the vertical axis is about 10 miles. Well, the vertical axis was changed to 4 miles. So that's what they were aiming for. Now keep in mind, when this thing was launched, it was launched on a planet that was turning. the Earth is turning. The Earth is also going around the sun. We're aiming at an object.
Hitting the atmosphere at about 13,000 miles per hour, the spacecraft begins to slow down. While slowing down, the spacecraft uses thrusters to help steer toward the landing target. We throw off weights to rebalance the spacecraft so that it's lined up for parachute deployment. After slowing to about Mach 2, or about 1,000 miles per hour, we deploy the parachute to slow down even further. Once we're below the speed of sound, the heat shield separates and the spacecraft looks for the ground with the landing radar. Once we reach an altitude of about 1 mile, the spacecraft drops out of the back shell at about 200 miles an hour. It then fires up the landing engines to slow it down even further. Once we've descended to about 60 feet above the ground and are going only about 2 miles per hour, the rover separates from the descent stage. As the rover is lowered, the wheels deploy in preparation for landing. Once the rover is on the ground and touchdown has been detected, the descent stage cuts the rover loose. It flies away, leaving Curiosity safe on the surface of Mars.
So all of that really happened. This is what's coming up.
One of the first things Curiosity does after landing is to deploy the mast, which supports many cameras and instruments. Curiosity shoots a laser at an interesting target. This helps us quickly understand the kind and composition of that target from a distance of up to 30 feet. If the target's worth a closer look, Curiosity can drive up and inspect it with the instruments and tools at the end of its arm. The drill on the arm allows us to grab some of that rock and deliver it to the laboratory instruments inside the body of the rover. Those instruments can tell us even more about the mineral composition, getting us closer to understanding whether life could have existed on Mars. Curiosity will be exploring the red planet for at least 2 Earth years, and there's no telling what we will discover.
Now, 2 Earth years is roughly 1 Martian year. It takes Mars about 680 days to go around the sun, so that's their year.
Creo que sea automático. Que sea automático, porque anda por la
Investigando plantas en el espacio. Ese es el ventilador que se lleva. Pero huevos de las esto se les quedó en el espacio porque se sacan poner. ¿Sabéis, no? De mucho.
But frogs, lizards, and turtles thrive here as well. This quarry is most famous for its birds and non-flying feathered dinosaurs. More than a dozen true birds have been identified. Some of the non-flying dinosaurs have feathers that look like those on modern birds. The axe even preserved the long, intricate tail feathers of this Confucius order. These fossil imprints tell each feather's shape, but not its color. The Liaoning Museum of Paleontology displays models showing feathered dinosaurs with the coloration of modern birds. These models also show that